Hello, welcome back to 3D Drawing for Model Railway. Today's lesson I'm going to continue probably what's one of the last major components left missing from the model, and then I'm just going to work on getting that added in today. And that's within this area here. There's a piece of the machinery that's used to hold the rails up in place while the excavator runs underneath, removing the ballast before the laydown parts put down the fresh ballast here. So I've gone through the photos, and there's probably 4 photos that show this reasonable decency that we can make a model from it. The part itself is symmetrical across both sides, and I would imagine it's symmetrical across both halves of those sides as well, because there's 2 sets of these lift rollers here. So I imagine there's a lot of details on this side which would be on the other side as well. Between them there looks like there's some sort of circular or rectangular support going across, and that's supported off of a beam that hangs down. I would imagine there's hydraulic rams and stuff under here to raise and lower this so that it gets down to rail height, because these rollers are designed to fit underneath the top part of the rail. And as I say, I've got 4 of these images, so we can work through using these that show that they're decent enough. Okay, so jumping back into Fusion, I'm going to create a new component, and I'm going to call this one, I think I'm going to call it something like rail lifter. And obviously make sure that the component is turned on. As I said, that this part is designed around lifting the rails, so we know that these rollers are going to be, the centre of these rollers is going to be on the rail position. We can start by creating an offset plane that's going to be at or around the position of the wheels, because we know that's going to be the inside face where the rail is going to sit. But as I say, that's going to be based on the centre of this beam here, so we can use that to initially draw a rectangle on and then extrude 2 sides to that. So as I say, I'm creating that there, and then we're going to look at rough position of where that's going to sit. So I think the middle of this is going to be where this ram sits here, because I think this ram is what's going to drive this up and down. So it's going to sit in this area here. So I'm going to create a sketch. I'm going to place it on that plane that we've just, click on the wrong thing there. I'm going to create a sketch, and I'm going to draw it on that offset plane that we just selected there. Okay. The first thing I do is, I think I'm going to draw just a basic rectangle. Position I'm going to go for is more about here, I think. Just drag it across like that. Probably not far off, I don't think. Let's define that. So I'm going to go for 12 mil. What do we think that is? About a foot or so. Yeah, let's go for, I'm going to go for 2.5 millimeters. Zooming in on this image, it looks like where the wheels are, this is raised section behind it with a diagonal piece coming up and down. So I'm going to draw, again just using rectangles here. So 2 millimeters wide, I'm going to go for 3.2 millimeters high. And in fact, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to split this in half, because it's going to be symmetrical, so I only really need to draw half of this. If I just drag that back down to 6, I can then mirror that across based on this position here. Yeah, that works. To enable that to happen, what I'm going to do is draw a line up there. That looks pretty much, actually looks pretty much okay, I think so. I'm going to go with that and define distance from there. I might as well use that point there. .45 millimeters, and we'll go height relative to that position, 1.3 millimeters. Okay, and then as I say, this has got a diagonal coming down. And I'm going to go, yeah, I don't think that looks too bad. If I'm snapping to that midpoint there, so I'm going for 145 degrees angle on that piece. We've got two rectangular pieces that come out of the top. I'm just going to draw that. They don't come up particularly high, so same with 0.2 millimeters and 1.2 millimeters long. And we'll define the distance length there. Over 1.2 again. That lines that out okay. And that being these two bits that come up at the top here. I'd say overall that's probably not a bad initial shape to go with. So if we select all these pieces here, we can do extrude, new body. I'm going to do symmetrical. How thick do we want to have this? I'm going to go for maybe a millimetre in each direction, which gives us an overall width of 2 millimeters. Gap there, yeah. If not, you can position that in, glue that and position it with gap there. Okay, so that gives us that basic shape. Just thinking again, I don't know why I've done that symmetrical, because we can mirror this across realistically. So I'm going to edit that feature and just make that one side. And just make sure it comes forward a millimetre, and then we can just mirror that all across once we've drawn everything. Okay, so I'm going to start by drawing these van parts here next. To do that, I'm going to create a plane at an angle from this bottom front edge here. If we rotate that round, turn everything else off so we can see what we're actually looking at there. I'm going to rotate that. I think 10 degrees is not a bad angle actually, looking at where that would come up. And then I'm going to draw a sketch on there. I'm going to use a circle. Project that edge initially. I'm going to draw a circle from that edge out. Wise, what are we thinking? Good 8 inches, I reckon. So maybe 1.5 millimeters. Okay, let's reposition this. So from that edge of this, I'm going to bring that. I want to go out or in. I'm actually going to leave it overhanging, so I'm just going to go for 0.7, and from there downwards. Let's try 0.3. We'll have a look, see what it looks like. We select both edges of that. I'm going to go two-sided. I'm going to bring it down. Not a lot, maybe 0.2. Sorry, press enter there, I've done that. I'm going to drag that up. 2.5. Does that now touch and go into it? Yes, it does. That's fine. That's what I'm after. So I'm going up 2.5 and down 0.2 millimeters. And I'm going to tell that to join. Coming out the bottom, we're going to go small diameter, larger, and larger again. So point, sketch on the bottom. Again, using the circle. Going to go for 1mm. Going to extrude that to 0.2. And then I'm going to offset plane from there down by 0.2. Draw on that offset plane. Again, we've got the circle, so we shouldn't need to project that. I'm going to bring that out. That's going to be bigger than the initial. So the initial one was 1.5. I'm going to bring that to 1.7mm. Finish that sketch, and then I'm going to use the loft tool to loft from that inner circle to that one, which will give us the sloped edge that we've got on this top surface here. And then we're going to extrude that face down by 0.1. Let that catch up. And then draw again on that bottom surface. And this is going to be a bigger circle again. Find snap the midpoint there. Find the midpoint. So we know we've got 1.7. And we're 1.85. Select those two profiles and then extrude that to 0.2mm. That's going to give us that shape that we're looking for. Actually, that 0.2 might be too big still. Let's edit that back down to 0.1, I think. Yeah, I think that's not looking too bad actually. Okay, so looking at the top here, I think we've got this pivot point that comes up, but there's like a frame that goes around that bit we've just drawn. So we can do something similar. If we draw on the side profile here, if we get rid of the pickup, okay, we see what we're looking at. And I think we're going to have in this area a circle. It's 0.7 in diameter. I'm going to draw a line from there to there. I'm just going to move this about just a little bit. I think it's going to come out like that. Actually, maybe a bit further. And I'm going to have a line that's tangent to there, come down. I'm picking up this blue line here. I want this to come down level with that position. So it's creating that weird shape there. Let's define this so you can copy it yourself. We'll do that. Okay, so that's going to be 1mm. Let's do the angle from that line. Snap that into whatever angle that comes up with. Let's define that angle, whatever angle that comes up with, and we'll define the length of that. 1.48. The length of that 0.61, and the length of that 0.58. That defines everything and locks it all into position. You need to close off this. So if we just draw a line down there, it enables that to be extruded. Okay, I'm going to drag this. Actually, I wonder whether this should be inside then. What we can do, if we grab the end of that, probably go back and just move this around to make it easier, but if we do this, you can extrude on there. I'll do it at a 0.3, let's have to join. Interesting. That's the line here. We offset that plane. .65. Should be roughly in the middle of the RAM here. And we should be able to mirror that extrusion across that plane. I did think that might be an issue actually. So if we edit that to be a new body, then we can mirror that body across that plane. Actually does need to move across slightly. So edit that feature to be 0.68. That probably looks about central there then. And we can come down here and turn off that plane. Okay, so now I've got 3 bodies. I'm going to combine those. So body 1 with body 3 and 4. And I'm going to draw on the inside surface here. So if we look at the picture, which one's going to be the best one? We've got a RAM that goes all the way across. We slice that, so the pivot point goes all the way across. We have 0.6, it's slightly smaller than the frame. And then extrude. If we do it till it cuts and we know it's touching, just change that to a join. So 1.4 is going to come across and it's going to join on OK. And then I think on the outside of it, yeah, you've got the bolt coming through, so you can draw that easily on the end here. Another 0.5. Extrude that 0.1. Because we've got that mirror bit down the middle, we can just copy that feature across. Plane 4 is the mid plane. Good, that's both sides. Okay, so looking on the sides here, we've got these 2 little rams parts that come out the side. I'm going to rotate this round. To do that, I'm going to draw on the face here. Use that as a plane. I'm going to draw a circle. .5, 0.6, and just move that so that the front edge looks like it's sitting tangent to this part here or close to it. And then I can extrude. I think I'm going to go 2 sides with that. This one's going to come in and join there. And I'm going to bring this out. Maybe 0.5 millimeters. Yeah, that's okay. Okay, I'm going to go down door this part here, this little circular part with 3 bolts on the top. Draw that onto the front surface here. Actually, before I do that, I think I'm going to move this part across a little bit. 1.45 across. Move that across a little bit. Okay, let's go back into edit sketch. Got a circle. It's going to be roughly in line with that midpoint. 1.2 millimeters. I'm going to find the distance. Actually, might be a bit too big. Midpoint to the bottom edge. I'm going to go for 0.7. I'm just going to reduce that down to say 1 millimeter. Define there to the edge, whatever it comes up with, because we know it's the midpoint of this part here. I'm going to extrude that. 0.2, make sure that's a join. Set the body here, what part's that? Part of the top. Edit that feature, make that a join. That just doesn't like it because I've gone back to change that. Just edit sketch and click on OK, it'll fix it. And then we'll draw on the top surface here, just 3 small circles, so maybe 0.3. Extrude that. Again, maybe 0.2. Make sure that it's a join on your body. And then I'm going to circular pattern it. Select that feature, axis, and then go for the outside edge. 3 of them. Let's just see which of these gives us the best. Not going to make any difference. That's fine. So I've got 3 of them there. That's looking okay. Okay, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a little bit of relief at the top on this part here. So I'm just going to create a sketch on the front surface, drawing a rectangle that's going to be same width. So we'll define 1.2 as the width. I'm going to do 0.4 as the height, and then just extrude that maybe 0.1 millimeters, just to give it a little bit of extra relief for the detail there. Okay, so we've got this circle I'm going to draw next. And I'm going to draw, again, using the front surface, positions slightly lower than the initial circles, but also it actually relieves out the bottom slightly. I'm going to use the midpoint to snap to and draw a sketch. Maybe let's go for 1 millimeter actually, and we're going to define the height in the bottom here. I'm going to make it stick out a little bit, so maybe 0.45 with that bit coming out the bottom, that'll be fine. And I'm going to draw a line from here down, just to join that off, and I can select that profile on that one, not this part here, and just to extrude that forward, maybe 0.2 again. Okay. I'm going to say this is probably detailed enough, so I'm going to start mirroring this over. So if we just do mirror bodies, select the body, mirror plane. Initially I'm going to do back one, join, and then do the mirror again, selecting that body and mirroring on this end face here, and then join again. So we've now got that. Okay, I'm happy with that, how it looks. Let's just bring in the rest of the other parts that we turned off. So all these, just to make sure they look okay within there. I think overall what I'm going to do is just, we've got different here. Okay, let's go back and catch that part there. So it didn't join on this. Edit that feature, make that join, and then I'll copy it all across as it should. I'm going to move that body slightly, I think. away from a pickup conveyor here slightly. Or do I come down with it? I think maybe come down. Just to make sure we're not touching here. Because it's got to be in line with that centre point. And then my concern is, will it touch the rail? Equally, we don't want that to happen. The rail's going to be sitting at this point. Thinking maybe move it across. If we come back up that half mil, because that's touching there, that would be an issue. Thinking maybe come across at 1 millimetre, and then we'll come and move this across a millimetre as well. Yeah, I'll do that. So if we select the chassis, and then we've got to find this part within the history. So if we select it, scroll across the bottom, we can see that we've got it then join up here. So if I roll the history back to that point, again. We'll do this until that part disappears. Right, here we go. So it's this sketch here that I'm going to have to edit. I'm just going to move, if I change that to 24, it moves everything across. If everything's worked out right, everything should come with it, which it has. Let's jump that back through the history then. Again, when you go through the history like this, it can take a little while just to compute and catch everything up. But essentially all I've done is I've moved this ram 1 millimetre more to the left, which then lines it up with the movement that we made on the rail lifter here that we've just drawn. So that's now got that gap here, and that's in line. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is again work with this body, and we're going to mirror that body. Just select the body there, mirror. I'm going to scroll back up to the top. Oops, actually, wait a minute. I've got that still radio button checked there. Let's come back. Let's change that to the rail lifter. Mirror, select bodies, select that body, mirror plane. I'm going to use the mid plane again, so we'll put it on the other side. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a rectangular piece that goes between the two bodies here, because you can't really see too much what's going on underneath. I think that'll give us the connection that we need. So we just create a sketch on that inside surface. We can slice through and then just create a rectangle. So I think I'm going to go from this point here to this point, so these two diagonal pieces coming down. So define that 6. I'm going to go 2 millimeters. profile. I'm also going to pick up that profile in there. Making sure we get a full rectangle and then extrude across. Again, if we do the same thing as what we were doing before, if we come across to the, I won't do it because we'll cut some of this up. If we come, say, 5.5, set the join, and we can check underneath afterwards if it's not come across enough, which is fine. We can just come across. And all you've got to do is enough to make sure it's intersecting that part. Join the two bodies together. And then what I'm going to do is create a platform that goes from this to the top, bottom of the chassis. And if we look at the picture underneath, it's diagonally sloped outwards. And we create a sketch on that inside face there, and then slice through to that. This is our chassis, so we can project on the base of the chassis there. And we don't need to join the chassis because obviously we're going to need to print this as a separate part. I'm just going to draw a line that comes out from that midpoint, just so I know where we're going. So say 2.7 millimeters. And then we'll diagonally bring that up to in line with the bottom of the chassis here. 4 millimeters across. So drawing a rectangle there. Line. To find the angle, 48, that'll do. Snap that top edge. Okay, draw a line across here, 2.7. Angle up. So it's going to be 180 minus 48. That sets the angle the same, and then I can select that profile and extrude that to the other side. I'm going to turn the chassis off just to make sure that when I join it, it doesn't go in the chassis. It shouldn't do because it's a separate component. And we've got that triangle piece underneath it. You know, it's going to be something that's going to mount to the bottom of the chassis there for me. I think that looks okay. Okay, so I think I'm going to end this episode here. I think that's filled this area in quite nicely, and I think the detail on there looks sufficiently high enough that it's comparable with the rest of the model. I'm happy with that. You know, people aren't going to really see that as the part. They're going to be looking at the overall perspective of the model. I think detail-wise, it's going to be good enough that it will blend in and match up nicely. So I hope you've been able to copy along okay with that and enjoyed that episode. And thanks for watching.